I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 10 years. We've got a daughter, Emma, who's 15 and has been playing volleyball for a couple of years. It's one of those things where I thought everything was fine, normal, even. Lisa was a little bitchy at times, but that was just her personality, right? She'd throw a fit if dinner wasn't exactly to her liking or if I forgot to take out the trash on time. Still, she was a good mother, and we had what I thought was a solid marriage, or so I thought. The trouble started subtly. She'd get a bit more irritable after trips with Emma's team, but I chalked it up to stress or tiredness. Then she started staying late at work more often, claiming she had to finish projects or meet deadlines. I bought it at first. She's always been ambitious, and I figured she was just grinding away to get ahead. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She'd come home with a little too much perfume sometimes, or her phone would be glued to her hand when she thought I wasn't looking. Little things, nothing concrete but enough to make me suspicious. Then last week I noticed her texts. I saw them on her phone. She left it on the kitchen table while she went to the bathroom. There were messages that didn't seem innocent. Flirty stuff, jokes that crossed the line, and she was laughing like it was nothing. I scrolled a bit more, trying not to make it obvious I was snooping. That's when I saw the name, Mark. Turns out he's the coach of Emma's volleyball team. They'd been texting back and forth, and the messages weren't just about the game. No, she was talking about meeting up, making plans, all that sneaky crap. And then I saw a photo. It was her, leaning into him at some restaurant after a game, and her hand was on his thigh. I could see the unmistakable hint of her fingers and the way her body was turned toward him, like she was craving his attention. My stomach dropped. I felt like I'd been punched. I stared at the screen for what felt like forever, trying to process what I was seeing. I kept thinking, is this real? Is my wife really cheating on me? I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was right there. I remember going cold and then boiling over with rage. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept replaying the images and wondering how long this had been going on, how deep it was. The crazy part was, on the surface, Lisa still acted normal. She'd come home, pretend everything was fine, cook dinner, and act like she loved me. But that night, lying awake in bed, I knew everything had changed. The next day I confronted her. I didn't even plan it. I just blurted out everything I knew about the texts, the photo, and her reaction was something else. She looked right at me with this icy smile and said, "Oh, come on, Mike. You're overreacting. It's just a stupid joke. Mark is like a brother to me. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Maybe you're just insecure. If you can't trust me, what's the point of all this?" That bitch. She kept lying, spinning it like I was the crazy one. Said she was tired, stressed, that I was reading too much into a few harmless texts, but I knew better. I saw the way she looked at him in that picture, like she was craving that thrill, that secret rendezvous. It hit me hard. The betrayal, the lies, the fact that she'd been sneaking around behind my back during what I thought were family trips. I felt betrayed on every level by her lies, by the fact that I'd been blind to it for so long. The worst part, I still loved her, even though I knew she'd been cheating. How screwed up is that? I was angry, yes, but also hurt and confused. I didn't know what to do next. I just knew I couldn't keep pretending I didn't find out. After I confronted her, Lisa's reaction was like a slap in the face. She didn't break down crying or get defensive, typical guilt. Instead, she just looked at me with that smirk like she was amused or bored. She said, "You really want to do this now, after everything? Honestly, Mike, you're so boring sometimes. I was just having some fun. It's not like I was leaving you or anything." Her words made my stomach churn. Fun, that's what she called it, a game. It wasn't just some meaningless flirtation, I knew that. She was having sex with Mark. I'd seen enough to know this wasn't some innocent mistake. It was deliberate, and it had been going on for a while. I demanded she tell me the truth face to face. She shrugged and then, in her typical bitchy tone, said, "Look, I don't owe you explanations. I've been under a lot of pressure lately, and Mark's just someone who listens. You wouldn't understand. You're so busy at work, so clueless about what's really going on." I could barely keep my composure. She was spinning it, making me feel like I was the one overreacting, as if her cheating was just some harmless outlet for her stress. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I didn't care what her excuses were. I felt like I'd been hit with a sledgehammer and my entire world was crumbling. That night, I sat alone in the dark trying to process everything. The betrayal, the lies, the fact that she'd gone so far as to cheat with her daughter's coach's husband during these supposed team trips. It was just a one-night stand. This was an affair, a secret life she'd been hiding from me. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? Was I blind? Or was she just really good at pretending? I kept thinking about all those weekends she was working late or out of town, and now I knew what she was really doing. I felt sick, like I'd been punched in the gut repeatedly. The worst part was I still loved her. I wanted to believe there was some way back from this, some miracle fix that would make everything okay again. But deep down, I knew the trust was shattered. Her words replayed in my mind, her dismissive attitude, her fake apologies, her "it's just a joke" bullshit. I realized I couldn't keep pretending that I didn't know. I had to make a decision. How much more of this betrayal could I take? Could I forgive her and move on? Or was this the end of us? I didn't want to be the guy who just gives up, but I also didn't want to be the fool who stays and gets hurt again. In the days that followed, I started digging. I went through her phone again, scouring for more evidence, trying to figure out how long this had been happening. She kept lying, though, saying she was just talking to Mark about the team, about Emma. Yeah, right. As if I was stupid enough to buy that. I even reached out to a few of her friends, but they all acted like they didn't know anything. It's funny how people can keep secrets when they want to. Deep down, I knew I had to face the reality. My wife was cheating and she didn't care about me or our marriage. That's when I started planning. I didn't want to confront her again right away. I needed to think, to gather my thoughts. I wanted to see just how deep this went, how much I was willing to accept, or if I would finally stand up for myself. I knew one thing, this wasn't going to end with me just crying or yelling. I had to hit back somehow, even if that meant burning her world down a little. I deserved to know the truth and I deserved respect. Anything less was unacceptable, and I'd be damn sure she knew I was going to be the fool in her game anymore. Over the next couple of days, I kept my cool on the surface, but inside I was burning up with rage. The more I thought about Lisa's lies, her dismissiveness, and the fact that she had been sneaking around with Mark, the more I realized I needed a plan. I couldn't let her keep pulling the wool over my eyes. I had to find a way to make her see that I wasn't some doormat she could walk all over, especially not for some guy who was probably just as much a piece of shit as she was. I started by gathering evidence. I went back through her phone and her social media activity, trying to piece together exactly when she started the affair. I wanted to know how long I'd been blind. I found a few more texts, more flirtatious messages, some late-night calls that she tried to delete, but I managed to recover with a little digging. Funny how people think they can hide everything, but most of the time, their lies just leave a trail. I also found out that Mark's wife, Corinne, was just as clueless as I was. At least that's what she kept saying. I guess she had no idea her husband was screwing around with my wife during team tournaments. Once I had enough proof, I decided I needed to confront Lisa again. I didn't want to do it right away. I wanted to catch her off guard, make her squirm a little. I planned to do it at her place, where she'd think she was safe. I set up a hidden camera in the living room, just to record her reactions and have undeniable proof when I finally spoke my mind. I felt sick doing it, but I knew I had to be sure. This wasn't just about catching her, this was about making her understand that I wasn't going to be played anymore. The night I decided to confront her, I was nervous. My hands trembled as I pressed record. She came home late as usual, all fake smiles, and pretending she was tired from work. I waited until she was settled on the couch before I dropped the bomb. I pulled out my phone, played her some of the texts I'd found. Her face changed instantly, her eyes widened, her smirk froze. She tried to deny everything, of course, but I just kept showing her the proof. Her excuses came fast. It's not what it looks like. It was a mistake. I was just lonely. Yeah, right. Loneliness doesn't lead to fucking other men behind your husband's back. She looked genuinely pissed, but also terrified. I could see her trying to keep her composure, but her voice cracked when she started spouting more bullshit about how she needed attention, how Mark was just a distraction from her real life. I wanted to scream at her to tell her how much she'd hurt me, how she'd destroyed everything we had, but I held back. I just kept the camera rolling, letting her talk herself into a corner, because I knew once I had her on tape there'd be no way she could deny it. While she was ranting about how unfair I was being and how I was just jealous, I felt a strange mix of emotions: anger, disappointment, and a crushing sense of loss. I realized this wasn't just about the physical affair. It was about trust, respect, the tiny pieces of our marriage that I thought were still intact. And now all of it was gone. I didn't know how to respond at first. Part of me just wanted to break down, shout at her, throw her out, or even just walk away. But I knew I had to be strategic. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to let her get away with this. That night, I went to bed feeling like I'd just been hit by a freight train. The evidence was there, undeniable. I had everything I needed to end this, to finally put a stop to her lies. But I also knew that nothing would be the same after that. The trust, the marriage I'd fought so hard to keep was shattered beyond repair. Still, I felt a strange sense of relief, like I'd finally taken back some control. I'd faced the monster she'd become, and I was done pretending everything was okay. The question now was, what do I do next? The morning after I finally confronted Lisa, I woke up feeling like I'd been run over by a truck. I'd played that scene over and over in my head all night, and even though I had the evidence, the reality hit hard. I hadn't slept much, and all I kept thinking was how she had lied to me for months, maybe longer. That bitch had been sneaking around, screwing Mark during trips I thought were just part of her work, all while I was home thinking everything was fine. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to gather my thoughts. I realized I couldn't just let this slide. I needed to make a decision, and quick. I couldn't live in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. That's when I decided I'd confront her again, but this time I had a plan. I wanted her to see I wasn't going to be some fool anymore. I was done being her fool, her punching bag, her backup plan. I called a friend of mine, Tom, who's always been honest with me. I told him everything, showed him the footage I recorded, and asked what I should do. He told me to stay calm, keep my cool, and think it through. I knew he was right, but inside I was burning with anger. I wanted to tear her apart, to make her feel the pain she'd caused me. I couldn't keep pretending I was okay. With this, I had to end it one way or another. Later that day, I told Lisa I wanted to talk. I told her I had evidence and I needed her to be honest. Her face slowly lost its color when I played the clip. She tried to deny everything again, but I just looked at her and said, "No more lies. I've seen the texts, the photos, everything. Don't bother lying now. I want the truth, and I want it straight." Her eyes flickered with anger, then with contempt. She spat back, "You don't get to control my life. I'm not some little girl you can boss around. Yeah, I cheated, so what? Everyone fucks up sometimes. You're just overreacting because you're insecure." That statement hit me like a punch to the stomach. She was so dismissive, so cold, like she didn't even care that she'd destroyed us. I felt my hands tighten into fists. I wanted to lose my temper, but I kept my voice steady. I told her, "You think cheating is just a mistake. You think lying about it is innocent. You're disgusting. I loved you, Lisa. I still do, but I can't keep pretending I don't know you're a liar and a cheat. So tell me, what do you want? Are you leaving, or do you want to stay and keep lying to my face?" Her reply was a quick, "I don't know, maybe I want to see if I can get away with it. Maybe I like the power. I don't owe you anything anymore." I could see the contempt in her eyes. She didn't care about us. She cared about her own thrill, her own escape. For a while I felt this strange, almost numb sensation. Like the world was falling apart, but I was just watching it happen. I had to figure out whether I wanted to fight for the marriage or just burn everything down. Part of me still loved her, but the other part, deep down, knew this was the end of the line. I told her I needed some space. I grabbed my keys and left the house, not even caring if she tried to stop me. I needed to breathe, to clear my head. I went for a drive just to be alone with my thoughts. As I drove, I kept replaying the last few days in my head. The lies, the betrayal, her dismissiveness. All the times I tried to be a good husband, a good father, only to discover she'd been betraying me during our family trips. I felt so stupid, so naive. How did I miss all the signs? How did I not see the woman I loved was capable of this? It was pure chaos inside my mind. I kept asking myself whether there was even a point to fixing this mess, or if I should just cut her out entirely. I didn't want to be the guy who got played, but at the same time, I couldn't bring myself to just walk away without feeling like I'd truly fought for something. I knew this was going to change everything. Our relationship, our family, my sense of self. The question was whether she'd even care enough to change or just keep pretending this was nothing. By the time I got back home, I knew I couldn't go on like this. The marriage was shot, and I was painfully aware of that. I also knew I had to decide what my next step was, whether to file for divorce or try to fight for some kind of reconciliation. Honestly, I was leaning towards ending it, not because I didn't love her, but because I couldn't live with the lies and the betrayal. I'd been naive, trusting her, believing she was the woman I married. Now I saw her for what she really was, a bitchy, selfish cheat who'd do anything for her own pleasure, even if it meant destroying everything we built. The days that followed were a blur. I stayed at a friend's place for a while, trying to process everything, trying to figure out what to do next. Every time I thought about her, my stomach twisted, and I felt this horrible mixture of anger, sadness, and disappointment. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind, so stupid. How did I miss all the signs? How could she be so cold, so ruthless in her lies? It was like I'd been living with a stranger all along. I remember sitting in that coffee shop, staring into my cup when it hit me. This wasn't just about her cheating, it was about respect. Or rather, the lack of it. Lisa had shown me who she really was, and it wasn't the woman I thought I married. She was selfish, manipulative, and willing to destroy her own family just for some meaningless sex and ego boost. That realization made me furious. I had given her everything, my love, my trust, my time, and she spat on it like it was nothing. I knew I had to make a choice. I couldn't keep pretending I was okay with this. I couldn't keep living in the lie. So I decided I'd confront her one last time. I wanted her to see how much she'd hurt me, how deeply she'd betrayed everything we once had. I told her I was coming over to pick up some of my stuff, and I wanted her to be there so we could talk face to face. I told her I was done pretending everything was fine, that I was sick of her bullshit. She tried to play it cool, acting like she didn't care, but I knew better. I saw the flicker of guilt behind her eyes, and that made everything clear. When I showed up at her house, she greeted me with that same bitchy smirk. She was trying to act like everything was normal, like she hadn't just destroyed our marriage. I kept calm, too calm. Maybe because I knew I had to get through to her without losing control. I started by laying the evidence on the table, screenshots, the footage, everything I'd collected. Her face turned pale, but she still kept trying to deny it, saying she was just having fun, that I was overreacting. I cut her off, telling her I didn't care about her excuses. I told her I saw her for what she was, a selfish slut who'd cheat on her own husband and lie through her teeth to cover her ass. Then I told her I was done. Done pretending that I was okay with her cheating, with her lies, with her disrespect. I told her I wanted a divorce, and I wanted her to pack her stuff. I wanted her gone out of my life because I couldn't keep living with a woman who thought she could do whatever she wanted without consequences. She threw a fit, accusing me of being controlling, jealous, insecure. But I didn't care. I told her that her choices had consequences, and I was finally facing mine. As I started packing up my things, I felt an odd sense of relief mixed with heartbreak. I had finally taken control, but I also knew I'd lost the woman I loved. I realized that sometimes betrayal cuts so deep that reconciliation isn't possible. It's just pain, anger, and a long road to healing. I kept thinking about Emma, about how her innocence had been stained by her mother's selfishness. I promised myself I'd do everything I could to protect her from that kind of betrayal in the future. In the end, I walked out that door with my head held high. I didn't look back. I knew I'd be okay, stronger, wiser, more cautious. Lisa was still in that house, probably trying to spin her lies, but I didn't care anymore. I learned that trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to fix. But I also learned that life moves on. You just have to find the strength to walk away from what's destroying you. And that's exactly what I was doing. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy, and there were many nights when I felt all the old wounds reopening, anger, betrayal, the overwhelming sense of loss. But I also started to feel a strange sense of liberation. I was finally free from her lies, from her betrayal. I could breathe again, and slowly I began to piece myself back together. The divorce was messy, of course, but it was necessary. Lisa fought me bitterly at first, trying to hold on, spinning stories about how I was overreacting, how she'd change, how she still loved me. But I knew better now. I saw her for what she really was, a selfish, manipulative woman who only cared about herself. What I learned from all this is that trust is the most fragile thing in a marriage. Once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. And sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away. I realized that love, real love, isn't about putting up with lies or cheating. It's about honesty, respect, and mutual care. If those things are gone, then what's left isn't worth holding on to. I also learned that revenge isn't about hurting her back. It's about reclaiming your dignity and moving forward. I didn't want her to see me broken or defeated. I wanted her to see that I was stronger than her betrayal. Now, I focus on my daughter, Emma. She's still young and innocent, but I'm determined to shield her from the chaos her mother caused. I've taken her to counseling and we're working on rebuilding our relationship. I want her to grow up in an environment where honesty and integrity matter. As for me, I've started dating again, taking small steps to trust someone new. It's scary, sure, but I know now what to look for: truth, loyalty, and respect. Things I thought Lisa had given me, but in reality she just took them away. Looking back, I have no regrets about confronting her, about uncovering the truth. I wish it hadn't come to this, but I also know I couldn't keep living in denial. Sometimes, life forces us to face our worst fears so we can rebuild stronger. I've learned that betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches us about our own strength. I hope anyone reading this who might be going through something similar understands. Don't stay silent. Don't accept betrayal just because you love someone. Stand up, face the truth, and do what's best for you, even if it hurts in the short term. Because in the end, moving on is the only way to truly heal. And that's what I'm doing now, healing, moving forward, and making sure I never let anyone treat me like that again.